Welcome all to the CTL Practicum Info Session. We are getting ready to, or we actually have just opened up the application cycle for this fall. And I'm happy to share a little bit about this program. My name is Pat Govang. I'm the Director of Innovation Partnerships with CTL, and among the various areas that I focus on for the organization, that also includes our work with the CTL Practicum program. And my colleague Linda from our team is the point person for the program as well. And her contact information will be available at the end. Let me see if I can figure out how to effectively move my, there we go. I have to do it that way. So what I'd like to do today is give you a snapshot of what CTL is and what we do in our role on campus, and highlight within that role and responsibility what we look for the CTL Practicum experience to provide, share a little bit about that program and the process that we have for applications this fall, and then open it up to questions and answers to all of you. So starting with CTL, one thing to think about us as is we're an organization that spans all of our college campuses across the world, whether it be in Qatar, down in New York City, Geneva, or here in Ithaca. So we're one of the few campus organizations that has that view across all of our campuses. And when you're thinking about what we do, we are underpinned by this legislation called the Bayh-Dole Act. It was passed in 1980. So why are we putting up some legislation and starting off with that? A little bit about the Bayh-Dole Act. At the time, the federal government was increasing its investments in basic research as a number of the large companies that were doing fundamental research were moving towards more market-focused efforts. And as that research was increasing, the government at the time owned the innovations or patents, any patents that came out of that research. And it was nearly impossible to have access to those innovations to deploy them in the marketplace. So the research was happening, but we weren't really seeing a benefit of that. So the Bayh-Dole Act turned the tables around a little bit and said, you know what, let's put the responsibility for identifying, protecting, and commercializing the innovations that come out of the research with the folks doing the research. And since 1980, over the last 40 years, we have created a professional practice of transferring, identifying, protecting, and transferring these technologies into the marketplace. And that's called technology transfer. And that's what our office does for the university. Now, the Bayh-Dole Act is the underpinning of why we exist, and that's happened since 1980. And that's embodied in Cornell's Policy 1.5. So if I'm sure all of you remember reviewing and signing Policy 1.5 when you joined on to the university, and if that's a little fuzzy in your memory and you're looking at this opportunity, I would encourage you to take a look at that policy. It defines both CTL's role and how the university identifies Cornell inventions and the responsibilities that we take with them based on the Bayh-Dole Act. So by understanding those two documents, you have a pretty strong basis for what CTL does and why we do what we do. As I mentioned, we apply that across the entire research expenditure of the university. Last year, in financial year 2019, our most recent numbers, we did $1.14 billion in research across all of our campuses. And that's split roughly 60-40, with about 40% being done down at Weill Cornell Medicine, both in New York City and our Qatar campuses, and the remaining 60% being conducted here at Ithaca, Cornell Tech, and our Geneva campuses. So roughly a 60-40 split in those research expenditures. In servicing that research, our mission is founded on the tenets of the Bayh-Dole Act and Policy 1.5. And in that first bullet captures that our mission is to catalyze the technology commercialization to develop products and services from university innovations for societal benefit. The other 2 points of our mission are more around how we go about doing that and making that happen. Promoting, first, our startup focus, promoting new technology ventures to foster an economic development within New York State and across the nation. So with that stated in our mission, we do have a bias to creating new technology ventures, and I'll talk a little bit about our activity in that space. Another point, however, is growing our industry alliances to develop innovation that leverages both the university IP and our research enterprise to create those projects. So if you like that little graphic at the bottom of the slide, the technology licensing piece is the Bayh-Dole Act. The green box, education and outreach, is really a function of how we do that and how we go about making the technology startups and corporate engagement piece happen as well. So if we start first on that startup bullet and just share a little bit about the startup history. So most folks on campus active in the entrepreneurship programs and things look at us and know of us as the licensing body for many of the startups that are on campus. We have a portfolio of 92 companies that in our active licensed startups. In our history, we've done over 200 of them. The total financial year 20 investment in all of our portfolio was over $266 million. And historically, our startups have collectively raised $2.6 billion. When we take these numbers and put that into a graphic, it tells maybe a little bit different story. But here you can see all the startups that have spun out of the university based on university technologies since 1980, the dawn of the Bayh-Dole Act. And you can certainly see there's a trend there in how that is working and how that is going. And why we're most known on campus for the work that we do in our startup companies, from a licensing perspective, it accounts for roughly 20% on average of the licensing that we do. The other 80% is actually through existing companies and corporations who access the technologies both exclusively, like they would for like a startup would, or non-exclusively, and depending on this type of technology and its utilization in the marketplace. So when we back that into our organization and the numbers and the volumes of what we do as a team here at CTL, and these are our most recent numbers. We processed in FY20 our 518 invention disclosures. We had 408 issued patents, 69 licenses, and generated $20.5 million in revenue off of those licenses. You might look at that revenue number and say, hey, that's pretty good for a center to do in terms of bringing in revenue. However, the way we manage that revenue does not, only a portion of that comes to CTL to help fund our operations. Roughly 1/3. The other components of that revenue per policy 1.5 and per tenets of the Bayh-Dole Act, it gets split up across the university. So roughly 1/3 goes to the college or unit from which the invention emerged. And the other 1/3 gets distributed evenly amongst the inventors. So that's a component that keeps our faculty interested in, and as I said, we've paid for some nice second houses for some faculty over the years. The other activity around those licenses is in our startup world. As I mentioned, last year we did 13 startups, and which saw $266 million investment. And the corporate engagement piece, we have a sponsored research component, which is companies who are doing contractual research within our labs. We generated about $33.7 million in that research in the last year. And on the education and outreach piece, we launched the Practicum program last year and brought in 8 new practicants. And we also hold events continuously across campus and externally, where we work to reach out and share both opportunities of working with the university, as well as internally focused on how labs and faculty and inventors can work with CTL. The two areas that we want to focus on, however, that kind of drive the practicum is the invention disclosures that we receive and the technical marketing that we do around those. And I'll share a little bit about that process, as it's really important to the practicants. So this is what we call a beloved technology brief. It's an example of a summary of an invention that gets disclosed to us. So as faculty and graduate students come across discoveries that they think might be of interest to the marketplace and would be patentable, they disclose those to us, and we make a decision on filing and to protect that, and looking at the market potential of those disclosures. And when we determine to market a technology, we create the technology brief, and this is a summary of the invention. It also talks about the technology and summarizes that in a way that is clear. It provides any patent or intellectual property information, as well as a summary of the market potential. So the technology brief is the first step in marketing our technologies, and it's really part of the experience that our practicants focus on. And this is where, and I'll explain a little bit more about that process. But when we're looking at creating a technology brief, the information comes from multiple areas. It may come from the invention disclosure itself, when the inventors filed and provided information. There may have been subsequently a filing for a patent where more information was added or organized in a way that would be more germane to the patent filing process. There may be published papers or presentations available that will help explain and put context to the invention and where it might be going. And last but not least, we also talk with the inventors to understand their excitement around the invention, what they see, and who they know that might be interested in it. In fact, about 80% of our company licenses are sourced, start with a recommendation from a faculty member who knows somebody at a company that might be interested in that. So the technology brief is the start to the entire process, but as I've alluded to, there is the process behind how we market our technologies for licensing. So when we look at that, starts with a disclosure from inventors. Our technology licensing officers are responsible for reviewing that and understanding and making the decisions on whether or not the technology will be protected, what the commercial value is, and whether or not that technology will be marketed. So if it is marketed, generally, and this is kind of a little flexible based on which office we're working out of and which group, it would go to the licensing association. Other times it's the TLO or an innovation fellow who would work to on the marketing plan and coordinate with Lynda in the innovation partnerships team. Lynda leads the practicant teams, and she'll assign out the project to the respective practicant, who will initially work on creating a tech brief. And the components of that tech brief include, summarizing the technology, doing research and summarizing the market opportunity, and also at times helping out with understanding the potential of the intellectual property or in doing those types of searches. Once we have a tech brief, there's a review by the technology licensing officer around what we do with that, and both to refine it and approve that tech brief and ensure that it's aligned with where we're going to market that. And then together, the practicant and the innovation partnerships team and the licensing team work to define how we're going to market that technology brief. We've got various options through the Cornell Technology Licensing website. We do direct marketing, subscription services, and social media. So an example of some of those through our website. We have a subscription through our database company called Wellspring. The subscription is called Flintbox. And there, if you access the CTL site and click on Review Technologies, you'll see our available technologies listed for licensing. The information that describes these technologies comes from the technology briefs that are created. Another option we have for profiling our technologies on our website is our recently introduced COVID-19 Solutions page. So if the innovation has application in help solving one of a problem related to COVID-19, we want to profile that especially on this page. And we've had success already with companies coming through this page to identify and license technologies. In certain cases too, we look to market technologies via social media, leveraging either LinkedIn, primarily LinkedIn and Twitter. And when we package a technology for that, it involves, it may involve creating alternative media beyond the technology brief, such as a small video, or thinking about how we can precisely describe it within the confines of whichever media platform we're distributing. So that process really is really where the CTL Practicum plugs into, and where we empower our practicants to help create those marketing materials and be a valued member of the team and moving those innovations forward into marketing. So the program itself is relatively formal. So we've got a nice formalized application process, and all applicants are screened, and there's a selection process that will culminate by the end of November, early December, I believe. Selected practicants will begin with us in January, the last week of January, to be a part of a robust training program where you'll learn more about CTL, what we do and how we do that, how to assess markets and potential licenses, how to create the collateral, how to assess patentability, and learn about the various types of contracts that we use to move these into the marketplace. We have existing 6 of our practicants are continuing on into their second year to serve as coordinators and mentors to our new ones that will be joining us. So what is the practicum that has all of those traits? It's a paid fellowship program that is open to STEM and MBA graduate students on all of our campuses. We're seeking candidates who are available to work with us for at least 1 year at a minimum of 10 hours per week. The eligibility is open to all Cornell graduate students who are currently enrolled at Cornell. And the selection criteria is looking for, we want folks that have demonstrated interest in technology transfer, innovation, and entrepreneurship, some science or technical research experience, and a commitment and availability for 10 hours per week, and the ability to attend various meetings and inventor meetings with licensing officers, and the approval of your research advisor where that's applicable. We mentioned we have an application process. On the CTL site, you'll see a students area. If you click there, you can link into the practicum program. We use a product called InfoReady to coordinate and collect the applications for the program. We ask that you follow that procedure. We'd like a resume and a cover letter to understand your interest in being a part of the program. And then we will look to interview our applicants the week of November 9th. I should mention that the submission deadline is the end of October 30th, the last business day, Friday. And we will be looking to do interviews the week of November 9th and making our selections shortly thereafter. The program we will provide you for once the practicants selected, we'll give you some pre-reading and some work to do ahead of time. And then we'll look forward to having you virtually with us for some time in late January and February for the training program. Again, here are the details of the practicum application cycle this time around. October 30th is our end. The website I just shared with you, and we hold this cycle annually in the fall. And if you have any questions about the application process, our lead team member here is Lynda Inseque, who manages the program. And I mentioned earlier that last year was our first formal launch of the CTL Practicum. Prior to that, we would have interns with us on an ad hoc basis who expressed interest in learning about tech transfer, which helped us inspire us to create this program. And I'm pleased just to share one of our success stories, Dr. Julia Miller, who graduated this year. She did her PhD in plant biology in SIPS. She worked with us for, I believe, 3 years, and it was kind of the seasoned veteran coming into the first cohort of practicants last year. She worked on a variety of projects and marketing a great number of technologies for us. And I'll let kind of her quote there speak for the program. And I should mention also, she went on after her degree to accept a position as the Ag Biotech Transfer Fellow at Michigan State University, working in their tech transfer office. So a wonderful result from the experience. With that, that's all I prepared to share about the program, and I am happy to answer any questions about the practicum.
If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. And yes, I see Charlotte. Charlotte, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for that. That's like very exciting. I guess I was wondering, when you mentioned that it's a paid fellowship, what exactly that means, if it, for example, would replace a graduate assistantship or like a TA type of appointment. Is that what that means, or is it a different kind of fellowship?
The structure of the payment would be more on an hourly basis. So it's meant to complement those programs. So the hours that you put into the program, we would pay you an hourly rate. The rate is, I think I'll say the practicants are happy with the rates, but I can't say what they are because they do vary depending on which campus and which office they work out of.
Thank you.
And I should mention as well, in terms of our openings to bring on practicants this fall, I would say that we do have a bias towards folks who have experience in the physical sciences. We have our greatest need there, but we're always looking for great students that are a great fit for the program in any area.
Hi, I had a quick question about exactly the experience that you're looking for. You said physical science, and I was wondering, is that like life physical sciences or more computer science, physics? What kind of physical sciences are you referring to?
Well, we cover the entire research enterprise in the physical sciences, so that can range from chemistry to semiconductors to materials discoveries to various other electronics and intellectual and IT and computer software as well in certain applications. And as I mentioned, we're always looking to fit students with great experience in wherever they fit across the campus. But this year we'll certainly be, we are certainly encouraging, and we'll be looking to bring on a few team members who have some background in science or technology in the physical arena.
Any additional question?
Hi, I'm an international student, and I wonder, have you have any international students before, and what are the visa requirements? Thanks.
The short answer is yes. We do. We can accommodate international students. Lynda, do you want to comment
Yeah,
on the
sure.
process?
So I can add a comment on that. So we have, depending of the type of visa that you have, it will be possible or not possible. So for example, if you have a F1 or G1 and you are in Ithaca, you definitely can apply. And unfortunately, if you are at Wild, you are a Wild student and you have a F1 and J1, you will be ineligible. And for the F1 OPT, you will be eligible in Ithaca, but also at Wild, but it will be through the expiration date of the OPT. And for the H1B and the G1 postdoc, they are ineligible. So I hope I respond to your question.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. If I didn't cover a particular type of visa, feel free to reach out to me and I will look for the answer at HR. And I know it can be different depending if you are a student in Ithaca, student at Wild.
Thanks, Lynda.
Additional question?
Yeah. Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Is it only for the Cornell students or the people outside Cornell can also apply for this? Like if we have a visa, working visa, can we also apply?
It depends on where you are affiliated. If you are a student and that you are part of, for example, of the Tri-I, it's a program, graduate program with Rockefeller and other institutions in New York City. If you are part of this program, you can apply.
Okay.
But if you are outside of the Tri-I and outside of Cornell University,
Okay.
we won't be able to accept you in the program because we are taking only students that are who are enrolled at Cornell.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say generally it is for students enrolled at Cornell, with the exceptions that Lynda mentioned.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, I would encourage every one of you who's thinking about applying to be sure to reach out and use this as a resource if you have any questions as you're preparing your application. We're more than happy to help you through the process. And as I said, let us know and we're happy to give you a hand. And otherwise, we hope to see your applications in the future.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.